Hi guys, so today I have decided to take a holiday. I took this holiday so I could do this video and get it to you. Now I have no idea how long this video will be, but obviously you can look at the bottom now to see how long, and I guess it's going to be long. This video is going to be somewhat different. Generally when I do a video, I investigate and then I have some sort of script or notes in front of me when I go through the video. Now this first part, what I'm reading to you right now, is scripted. However, the main video will not be. What I decided to do is to place all what I have to say on the slides, and I will read it through with you. Now the reason that I've done it this way is that I want you first of all to listen to what I have to say in the whole of this video, but the aim of leaving it up is for you to then go back and then just read the slides. Then you can take notes on what I'm saying. Now, I've said to you that I feel that, this is probably one of the best pieces of work that I have ever done. Now, the reason I said that is the more I thought about the 25th of September and putting the slides together, the clearer it became for me. And I felt that I had to tell you in a way of a type of a story. And as I done that, again, it still made sense. Now, I know you four, and I know you will not accept all of what I'm saying. And that's cool, guys. But what I've tried to do is to show you what has been given to us about the 25th and try to sift out the bullshit and give you the timeline and the issues surrounding my timeline and the reasons to those issues. Now, I've got no plans to make this public, and I would appreciate that you would not share this and just keep it to ourselves. I think that the four of you and myself are a very well balanced team, and I have to say I love you guys. Now, from time to time, will hear me spark up a fag. I know I've said this before. That doesn't mean to say I am setting fire to a homosexual. It means I am lighting a cigarette. So, I believe I've nailed down the timeline. And as I go through this, I hope some of this actually stimulates you. So let's go to the main part of the video. So the process of identifying the sequential events of the 25th of September timeline is to look at both the reports, which is the preliminary, and the final report, the released MGM videos, and any stills that have been released by either the LVMPD or the MGM. The process then is to review the activity and work out the start and finishing time of each of the activities. Then what you do is you look at the finish time of a certain activity to see what impact, if there is any, on the start of the next activity. Process engineering. Now this gives us the ability to see if the timeline actually fits. Now in view of the previous findings that I gave to you with the photographs that were placed on the 25th in the final report, I decided to revisit the 25th of September and to continue to review. However, this was going to be with a deeper dive. The video is about working within a scope and showing actual time events in accordance to the narrative. The objective of this video is to retrace the footsteps of Stephen Paddock and to verify the timeline of events. However, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions. Now, the moment Stephen Paddock checks into the VIP checking-in desk, we have a problem with the timeline. Now, guys, I know that you've heard quite a bit of this before, but I'm trying to pull this all together. Now, both the reports, that's a preliminary and the final report, the LVMPD have stated that Stephen Paddock was checking in at the VIP desk at 15:33. The question has to be, first of all, where did they get this information from? It was first identified in the preliminary report, and then the stills and the video footage from the MGM was released. However, the final report did not change some things when they had the chance. Why? The MGM video has Stephen Paddock at the VIP registration desk at 14:52. So guys, which do you think is correct? For me, my opinion, of course, it has to be the MGM video. Now this conflict shows me that they did not work together early on in the Las Vegas shooting. The reports are just words. However, a picture and a video speaks thousands of words. The LVMPD, as I said, has stated that Stephen Paddock was at the registration desk 41 minutes later than the released MGM video. So when you look at the LVMPD report, it goes from the VIP checking in desk and then it goes straight to the bellman at 16:56. There is nothing in between those times. So here we have the video footage that the MGM had released, and you can clearly see at 14:52 he was stood there, and he was still stood there 5 minutes later at 14:57. As I said, in both the preliminary and the final report, it states at approximately 15:33. At 15:33, Paddock checked into room 32135. Approximately 41 minutes is approximately. I do not think so. So my first question is, why do we have a difference of 41 minutes? Why would the LVMPD reports direct us to believe that Stephen Paddock had checked in some 41 minutes later? Then I asked myself a second question in respect to the timeline. So we got Stephen Paddock at the VIP desk. Where did Stephen Paddock go from here, and when did he go? To determine this, we need to look at what activities are within scope. So what we got to take into consideration is the following: the sushi bar, the lift foyer, the missing data on 32135, go into the valley, meeting the bellman, and swiping the door. So, where did the evidence lead us to the second activity? So, thinking about the second activity, I think that we can rule out the sushi bar. And I say that because in the preliminary report, but it was not in the final report, it says from approximately 16:03 to 16:56 hours, Paddock was seen at the Missouri Sushi Bar. Question: why was the time not in the final report? I'll cover that later. So now another clue. Here on the left is a picture of Stephen Paddock at the VIP desk. So another clue is the release of the MGM footage. You can clearly see that Stephen Paddock is with a laptop bag at the reception desk. However, the MGM video release of the sushi bar, he leaves with no bag. He has no bag. Word of caution: Stephen Paddock was in the sushi bar twice. The second time he was there was on the 29th of September, and that is in both the reports. And as you can see, we have a start and we have a finishing time, which says on the 29th of September from 12:28 to 13:14, he ate at the Missouri Sushi Bar. The times for the sushi bar is critical, and I will show you that both in the reports, when it comes to the MGM video, it is wrong. So I can say with a great deal of confidence that I can rule out the sushi bar as the next activity once he left the reception desk. So did he go to the valley? Well, we've got a leaked document from the valley. However, in the final report, it states that Stephen Paddock went to the valley after the sushi bar. Therefore, the sushi bar could be ruled out. Here you go. So he's there. Paddock was seen at the Mitsui Sushi Bar. He then drove his vehicle from the South Park to the valley and returned to the front desk with 5 suitcase bags. So, guys, the sushi bar is now ruled out. So the only possibility is that indeed he went to the elevator. This is what was released by the MGM. On the left, you can see him in the foyer area, and then on the right you can see him actually entering the lift. So here we have Stephen Paddock in the elevator, and the time is 15:38. Now at the reception there is an exchange between the receptionist and Stephen Paddock, and my assumption is that this is when the door access card was actually handed over. Now it's not captured when Stephen Paddock had left the reception. However, the assumption is that he had been at the desk for over 7 minutes, and it wouldn't be much longer. However, it doesn't make that much of a difference. There is no mention in any of the LVMPD reports that he actually went to the lift. Now, if we take the time of 15:33 from the LVMPD report and then match it to this video of Paddock in the lift at 15:38, there would only be 5 minutes, and that would seem normal. But on the other hand, if you go just by the MGM footage, there is a missing gap of 41 minutes. So, missing 41 minutes, possible explanation. As I said, the missing time is an issue. It is a fair assumption that Stephen Paddock collected the room access card at the VIP reception at 14:58, and he could have been informed that he couldn't enter the room until 1600 hours, and as we know, that's the normal check-in time. However, later evidence have shown us that the room was actually ready at 15:06. There is nothing in both reports that covers the 41 minutes. So, for example, Stephen Paddock went gambling. Stephen Paddock went for a coffee. Stephen Paddock walked around the Mandalay Bay. This has been captured, this type of wording in the report. In both written reports, they have stated that Stephen Paddock was at the VIP reception desk at 15:33, which, without the release of the MGM video, would seem extremely plausible that he reached the lift in the 5 minutes, but then we are mixing the evidence. Now, my assumption is that the report stated that Stephen Paddock was in the VIP at 15:33, and this was to cover up the 41 missing minutes and to confuse the issue by not stating about the lift due to the missing events that were coming in 32135. Now, one of my assumptions, guys, is that it could have been that he actually met someone in those 41 minutes. Therefore, this would not support the lone wolf theory after the couple of days. I think that's a fair assumption. However, as I'm a fair person, I will raise another issue. But before I say that, at this moment in time, I am very happy with my last conclusion. However, here is the issue. Now, the issue that gives me concern is the timestamp in the elevator. But maybe I've got an explanation. So on the left, we have seen from the elevator footage is at 15:38. It seems that has been overlaid. On the right, I have captured a still from the MGM release footage, and you can see that there is an original timestamp. So who and why was the timestamp ordered? Was it the LVMPD? Here's the theory. Did the MGM know or have evidence that Stephen Paddock in actual fact was not the lone wolf as stated early on by the LVMPD? At that time, all the blame was seen to be shifted to the MGM. And this is the reason why they released the footage, which the LVMPD at the end of the day was not consulted. That is my assumption. I've not seen anything to contradict that. Maybe, just maybe, the LVMPD knows that he was not, in actual fact, a total lone wolf, and he did talk to lots of people. So now we have a beginning of a timeline, as I said, that I'm happy with. So now we have Stephen Paddock at the guest elevator at 15:38. So where's he going? As stated previously, it is not to the car park to drive to the valet. That has to follow after the sushi. What we are given is that he is in the elevator. And it is to do one of the following things: go into a different floor, go into a different room on the 32nd floor, go into 32135. And that is what I'm going to assume. He has been given the card. It's nearly 4 o'clock, whereby he can enter the room. And don't forget what I said, the room was cleaned at 15:06. Now he's got his laptop with him in that lift, and maybe just to place it in that room. Later on, there is no mention of the laptop with the suitcases. In addition, you cannot see him with a laptop in the sushi bar. Now, we have data missing on the lock interrogation report for 1556. Now, a lot of people have said this got to be Stephen Paddock, and that's what I'm going to go with at this moment in time. However, there are several issues. Stephen Paddock would say, let's go to the lift, and he's at the centre core on the 32nd floor at, say, 1539. The door was swiped at 1556, which means we have a missing time of 17 minutes. The walk along the hallway, as we all know, is estimated at about 2 minutes. This is an issue. But let's look at the lock interrogation report for that day on the 25th. So at the bottom, you can see at 12:17 the cleaner first goes in. And this isn't Gamboa. And they're in there for what? 1.5 hours roughly. Then a utility guy goes in 17 minutes. He was in there. And then we've got the same cleaner going back in for 1 minute after the utility person. So we need to keep in our back pockets that the cleaner was in there for 1.5 hours and the room was cleaned by 3:06, as I said. So now we got this 3:56. So we got one or more events missing, but you have to look at the door is open from the inside. This is after now the events are beginning to click in. The door is open from the inside and the deadbolt is released. So somebody has pulled the handle down and then closed the door. So that means to say somebody for 1 minute had gone into that room and actually thrown the deadbolt. So when you look at the events that have been lost, it would go: the door is swiped and accepted. The door is open, the door is closed, the deadbolt is thrown. Then, logically, the handle is pulled down, the deadbolt is released. So, and I said here, would a staff member for just 1 minute actually go and place the deadbolt on? No. So, this has the possibility, as I said, of Stephen Paddock actually being in the room. But we got this issue of 17 minutes. Now, words of concern over data is missing. I've said to you guys before, for 9 years I've been running a door access control system and I have never seen on any report that there was missing data. But this does not mean to say that this didn't happen at the Mandalay Bay. But I want to point out that on the 30th of September at 6:13 a.m. there are 2 pieces of data that are missing. And they are that the deadbolt was released and a deadbolt had been thrown. But the system has not logged it as missing data. Anyway, I now have a third part of my timeline that I'm happy with. So he's at the VIP check-in desk, he goes to the lift 41 minutes later, 17 minutes later, he then swipes the door of 135. But I have 2 missing times of 41 minutes and 17 minutes. So now where does he go from swiping the door? Now we get this from the preliminary report, as I pointed out before. So approximately 1603 to 1656, he was seen at the sushi bar. I now have a fourth part of the timeline that I'm happy with, which is the start of the sushi bar. So as I say, he's now got 7 minutes to leave 135, go down into the lift and sit at the sushi bar at 1603. I'm happy with that. Now the next part of the timeline has issues, and which is the finishing time of the sushi. As I say, he went into the sushi bar twice. Cigarette time. Not going to set fire to a homosexual. The one in the released MGM video, you can see that Stephen Paddock is sat there for a total of 34 minutes. In the reports, it says that 53 minutes and 46 minutes for the 29th. Now we know from the same report that the next action, as I pointed out, after the sushi bar, he has to go to the south parking area and then drive his vehicle to the valet, as per the report. So as it says in the preliminary report, but it was not in the final, and this is 53 minutes. So it would align to the leaked entry to the valet at 16:53. So from approximately 16:03 to 16:56 hours, Paddock was seen at the sushi bar. Sorry. And just to make sure, the 29th of September, it says now that he finished at 13:14, which is 46 minutes. In the release MGM footage, as I said, it's reduced to 34 minutes. So, in my opinion, neither one that is in the report would align to the next activity. So, to know how long he spent in the sushi bar, we have to determine the start of the next event, and that is of Stephen Paddock has to leave the sushi bar, walk to the South Park, and take the vehicle to the valet. Now, through a leaked document, as I said before, Stephen Paddock arrived at the valet at 16:53. So the report is wrong when it states that Stephen Paddock was at the sushi bar until 16:56. Cannot be. And also it cannot be the 29th because this was 46 minutes and it wouldn't hit that deadline. From the MGM release video, Stephen Paddock, as I said, is sat at the sushi bar for 34 minutes. The preliminary report gives the time. However, LVMPD knew that this was a mistake and they removed it in the final report. So now my timeline is, he left the sushi bar at 16:37 based upon the video of 34 minutes. So now Stephen Paddock, he's got to leave the sushi bar at 16:37. He has to walk to the South Park and drive it to the valet. And as I stated through the leaked document, the vehicle is logged at arriving at the valet at 16:53. This is a total time of 16 minutes. Now I believe that is achievable. The MGM footage of the 34 minutes has to be correct, because if you take the reports, it will not achieve that activity. So, this is now the sixth part of my timeline. As I say, he had 34 minutes in the sushi bar, he left at 16:37, he had then 16 minutes and arrives at the valet at 16:53. In the preliminary report, it says he then drove his vehicle from the South Park to the valet and returned to the front desk with 5 suitcase bags, no mention of a laptop. But in the final report, they have removed the fact that he returned to the front desk. In actual fact, it just says that Paddock rolled 1 bag and a bellman used a luggage cart for the other 4 bags. So they took that out. So as I say, the preliminary report, it states that Stephen Paddock went to the front desk. I believe that they knew that this was an issue and they rectified it in the final report. So the next timeline to determine is that of swiping the door at 17:02. This gives us 9 minutes from loading the cart at a valet and then taking it up to 32,135, which again just seems achievable. The final timeline, that is my timeline of events on the 25th. So as I said, issues. The issues are the 41 missing minutes, the 17 minutes from the center core to the swiping of the door of 135. The rest fits. So now we have the final issue of the final report under the report for the 25th of September. And these are these 2 photographs, as I've stated before. There is underneath the 25th of September are 2 photographs of totally different days. The one on the left is the 26th of September at 22:47. The one on the right is the 28th of September 21:49. So in the final report under the 25th, why are they trying to mislead us? Now, here we go, my summary. I'm happy with my final timeline of the 25th of September and the course of activities over that timeline. You have to go by the MGM release video as it is time-stamped. It is untouched at the VIP reception. However, as I said, there is this missing time of 41 minutes. In the LVMPD reports, it states that Stephen Paddock arrived at 15:33. Now, Stephen Paddock going to the room is a big issue. He would have been at the centre court, as I said, and it would have took him 17 minutes to walk to the hallway. So, guys, if it is not Stephen Paddock that swiped the door of 135, who was it and why? Why would they be in there, lock the door by the deadbolt for 1 minute only? But then this has to be followed up by another question. Where did Stephen Paddock go from the centre court if he did not swipe the door of 135? The preliminary report does not support the length of time Stephen Paddock would have been taken at the sushi bar. As I say, according to the preliminary report, he would have been finished at 16:56, and yet he hasn't even driven the car from the South Park into the valet. They realised this, and this is why they removed it from the final report. My timeline supports the MGM video of Stephen Paddock at the sushi bar. This gives the time to drive from the South Park to the valet. Again, my timeline then supports the 9 minutes that he would have had to load up the car from the valet and then go and reach 135 by 17:02. My investigation has shown that the photographs in the final report are from 2 different days. Why did they not use the one that they would have received from the MGM? Now, here is when I generally just talk a lot, but as I said, I've decided to put on this slide my final statement of the timeline of the 25th. As I say, you can close your eyes, guys, because there's a lot. You have to look at what the public was given. You have the MGM release footage versus the preliminary and final report. They are in total conflict, which I believe originated from the early days. There is examples that the MGM, the LVMPD and the FBI was not working together as a cohesive unit. Remember those early words. There is no conspiracy. There is no conspiracy between the MGM, the LVMPD and the FBI. The MGM had all the hard evidence, not the LVMPD. They had to collect it. The 25th, in my opinion, is a glaringly obvious that there was, shall I say, disagreement between the MGM and the law enforcement. The LVMPD released the preliminary report, and after that, the MGM silently, not as like a great big firework display, they released the 4 videos of Stephen Paddock. My opinion is that the MGM had evidence that it was not like what the LVMPD had stated in those early days, which was that Stephen Paddock had met no one and he was a lone wolf. Again, in my opinion, it was the LVMPD, supported by the FBI, that pulled the strings in the early days and continued to do so. Look at the first couple of weeks, how the LVMPD led the MGM staff in the collection of their statements. They never investigated the staff. They were leading them. There were times when we all said, do you know what, that just doesn't add up. Don't get me started on Campos. And the 25th was really a prime example. Conflicted evidence and missing details from the reports. In the report for the 25th, we have such a gap from registration to Stephen Paddock meeting the bellman. Where did the LVMPD get their facts from that Stephen Paddock was at the VIP registration desk at 15:33? As I say, this is 41 minutes later than when he did. This evidence was so easy to obtain and verify that Stephen Paddock was actually at the desk at 14:52. So the question is, was this gap ever addressed? No. So I ask why. The only conclusion that seems to be reasonable to me is that the MGM had evidence that Stephen Paddock was not some guy just walking around and keeping himself to himself. The law enforcement wanted to keep that away from the public for reasons that can only be guesswork. We have, as I keep saying, 41 minutes that could have been easily addressed and corrected in the final report. But the court case was going in favour of the law enforcement and the mainstream media had them backed off. So I believe the LVMPD had no need. Silence would have been so much better. Now the evidence was handed over. To get to the inconsistencies, people now had to either apply to the courts or go down the FOIA route. And for them, that is so easy to deflect and to deny the request. Now we have another example of missing time. Where and what happened after Stephen Paddock had left the lift at 15:39, some 17 minutes. This could have been supported by MGM evidence. We do not see him getting out of the lift. If this was Stephen Paddock entering 32135 at 15:56, then he had to go back to the lift. And guys, don't tell me he went down 32 flights of steps. Possible, but no. Now, as I say, he had to go back to the lift. And about 15:59, MGM would have had this footage. But this was never released and it was never addressed. Then finally, we have the two photographs that was placed in the final report. I've shown this was not the 25th. I have proven that these are two different days, the 26th and the 28th. So you have to ask yourself the question, why? Was this an honest mistake or just plain misleading? Where did the LVMPD get these from? Of course it was from the MGM. But who cut off the timestamps? In my opinion, the LVMPD. Why do I say that? It's to give impression that this was just an ordinary guy on his own taking bags to the room. So that leads to another question. Why did the LVMPD not use the original, the 25th footage? They bound to have had it. There has to be something in that footage that should not be seen. The only reason I can logically think of. Guys, have you got an explanation? Think. The LVMPD had all the footage. They are responsible and accountable for what went in that report. This is my opinion, and I find it hard to rationalise that this was just simply a mistake. Conspiracies are often born out of conflicting and missing evidence. LVMPD stated, "We will be transparent." So why are they not transparent? Because today there is no pressure to be, and no one has the bucks to push this through the court system, and they know that. Take the Fifth Amendment. I will always be biased in my theory that Stephen Paddock was not a lone wolf. There are too many inconsistencies, too many conflicting issues, and now the lack of pressure to submit evidence that supports the total narrative. Why not, through a FOIA, produce the evidence that would answer the conspiracy? That, for me, is critical. So, back to the script. So that's it, guys. Like I said, I'm going to keep this up and you can read the slides at your leisure. So what's next for Hunter? Well, it is important that I continue to work with Richard and try to make sense of this lock interrogation report. But guys, I'm afraid that I have now conceded that people I want to see taken to justice, it will never happen. In addition, I've also conceded that the truth will never come out from an official source. But that does not mean that I will stop. I will continue. Now, all you guys, you might be across the pond and you're some 5,000 miles away from me. But there will always be a special part for all of you in me. Thinking back, that sounds like I'm going to go somewhere. I'm not. I just wanted you to know that you are special. So until the next time, Please take care in these abnormal circumstances. And please accept my apologies if there are some mistakes in the main video, or me getting tongue tied. I just don't want to edit this. So thank you for watching and get back to me.